Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network, and we are here to discuss a very highly anticipated, popular Netflix film and a sequel to an iconic 90s comedy. It is Adam Sandler's Happy Gilmore 2. A lot of people that I talked to this week has seen this movie already. It did 46.7 million global viewers in the first 4 days, I think, as of the time we're recording this, which is crazy, but I'm going to be one of your hosts for this review. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined by Liz Seiko.
Hello, what's going on?
Hi, Liz.
Hi.
I remember when this was first announced and you were like, I need to be on this review.
Yeah.
You're a big Adam Sandler fan.
Yeah.
We haven't covered a lot of Adam Sandler on the pod because he hasn't had a lot. Actually, the last thing we did cover was a Netflix Adam Sandler movie. Very different vibe with Spaceman, which was, I think, the beginning of last year.
I do too. Very different vibes.
Very, very different vibe. But I don't know if he's had a Netflix movie since then. But this was one that was in the works for a long time. The original movie is from 1996. So almost 30 years later, we're getting Happy Gilmore 2. Shout out New Jersey. I think either majority of this movie or the whole entire movie was filmed in Jersey, which is awesome. But so before we dive into what this movie is, let's start with like your fandom for the original.
Okay.
So what is your relationship with the original Happy Gilmore movie from 1996?
Man, I don't even know how young I was when I saw it, to be honest, but it was definitely young. And I feel like it was just one of the movies that I related to, like anytime somebody brought up Sandler, I was like Happy Gilmore. It was either Happy Gilmore, Big Daddy, or as I got older and like started and the movies started getting later in the 2000s, it was Click and 51st Date. So like this one for me is like in the trifecta or like quad of the OG Adam Sandler films that I automatically go to. I think it's just a very funny movie. I think it's kind of one of the original ones that people go to. I really don't remember the first time that I saw it though. But I've seen it probably over 10 times now, like maybe even more.
One of your favorites?
One of my favorites, one of my husband's favorites. He's probably the biggest Adam Sandler fan that I know.
Okay.
Honestly, he's Tyler, he's upset I didn't bring him on this podcast, honestly, low-key. He's a very big fan. And this is probably his favorite film, is Happy Gilmore. Okay. So I've got some history with it.
Okay, fair point.
What about you?
For me, this was one where I don't remember how old I was when I saw this too. I think I was actually like a little bit later to it. Like, I mean, I was born the year obviously before it came out, so I didn't want to see it for quite a while. But I think I might have seen it in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. So it had been like still like at that point like 15 years since it came out. And I really loved it. It's probably my favorite Sandler comedy of that peak 90s era. I still really, really love Billy Madison. I'm actually not a fan of The Waterboy, which I know a lot of people are, but I don't like that movie. And one of my only Adam Sandler holes in my filmography is I still haven't seen The Wedding Singer. So I haven't seen that film, but a lot of the 2000s comedies we both grew up on, we were talking off screen before we started rolling about things like 51st Dates and Click, and those are movies that stick out to me, like I remember seeing in the theater and growing up with. And if people don't already know my love and fandom for 8 Crazy Nights, then go back and watch our holiday episode, because I love that movie too. But the first Happy Gilmore is probably, like I said, maybe my favorite Adam Sandler comedy ever. And so there was a lot of anticipation for this, but at the same time, going into it, we're in a different time in the world of movies. We're in a different time in terms of even comedy, where it's been such a long time since I can remember a comedy that made me feel the same way I had felt, whether it's a 90s or 2000s comedy. And so going into this, I was skeptical. I know you said I don't think you had seen the trailer, but I had seen the first trailer and I was nervous because I was like, okay, I don't know if this is going to kind of relate. And I think that coming out of it, I feel that it's a very okay movie. I think that there are things where they pay tribute and nods to the former movie and even kind of elements of the Sandler filmography that we all come to know and love in the Happy Madison productions, where we see certain actors show up and it's nice to see them and things like that. But there's another side of me that's like, okay, did we need this movie? And that's where I go back and forth on it. So I'm curious on how you feel coming out of it.
I think I feel very opposite of you.
Okay.
I went into the mentality that this was going to be kind of the film that it was. Fun, lighthearted, kind of like his earlier films were. Like, they're not big statement films. They're really just like fun, kind of family-friendly films that like anybody can really watch. A part of me also was hyped when they announced that it was going to be Happy Gilmore, because like out of his whole filmography from being all of his younger films, he chose this one. Mm-hmm. And so a part of me thinks that like, okay, since this is like his first real sequel, he has to have a script that he feels confident in, and he's not just throwing shit on a wall to get money. I mean, Sandler doesn't need more money at this point. He has a huge deal with Netflix. He can put out anything that he wants. And the fact that he chose to go back to one of his originals, I think meant that there was going to be something good, at least in this film. And I walked away with my expectations met. I didn't have super high ones, but I mean, I laughed. I had a fun time. I mean, this whole movie, I think this is kind of where people get a little mixed on, is there's a lot of cameos.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit too much on some people's parts. It didn't bother me. There was only a few that I kind of rolled my eyes really hard at and was just like, ugh, why is this person like getting in this role? But I think that's what this movie needed. Like, I don't think it would be as fun of a watch if it really was just all new named people, because the story really isn't that incredible. It is a good story. It's a surprising one in the beginning. Mm-hmm. But I think it needed the cameos to get a bunch of different point of views, because even watching it with, I don't know anything about actual golf at the end of the day. Yeah. I don't know real golf players. The only way I do is because, again, Tyler was watching it with me and he knows them. And so he's like, oh my God, like that's like this person, that's this person. And so I liked also all the cameos, because sometimes I knew who they were, he didn't. And so then it's not like you know every face that's popping up. It's just certain people, depending on what culture you know, whether it's television and media or golf.
Yeah, I think that the cameos do kind of come at a breakneck pace at some points in the movie. I do think it's interesting because it's like thinking about Sandler's image as a star and kind of where he was in 1996, where obviously he was still kind of a blossoming comedian. Mm-hmm. And so many of like, you think about like the iconic roles that came for some of these actors at that point. And then you think about like the special cameos of like Bob Barker in the first Happy Gilmore, in comparison to like, there are some in this movie, which again, we're going to talk spoilers in this review throughout. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, come back. But like the original movie, you have the jackass guy. And in this movie, his son in canon is Eminem. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's something where I'm like, did we need Eminem? Or could we have just done without that?
See, I thought that one was fine.
See, like that's one that bothers me. But then there's like the there was the guy who was in the crowd, like the really
tall
big
guy
dude.
Yeah.
And like I like that cameo, but again, it's because and not that I know Eminem, but like Boban Marjanovic, former NBA player, who's just like this literal ginormous human being. Like I thought he did such a great job because it matched the original to me. Like that was where I was like, oh, if you were gonna cast anybody in that role to pay homage to where they were, I would want it to be someone like Boban. Where there's aspects of this where it's like Travis Kelce is another one for me, where he's somebody that is obviously in the Hollywood sphere now because he's dating a pop star and he's appearing in Ryan Murphy series and doing all these other things. And he has a role where like he literally could have been played by anybody. Like there was no need for it to be Travis Kelce. And I was just like, okay, they're doing this for the effect that it's literally just so anybody that's a fan of Travis Kelce would be, oh, it's Travis Kelce. And that's it. And it doesn't serve the story and it's a random thing. And it's some of those things that I'm like, okay. And maybe part of it's because I'm older, but at the same time, I'm like, this doesn't serve the story in the way that I would want it to. You know, like I'm also the biggest Guy Fieri fan in the world. But like even the little thing he does, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
Funny.
But it's just like, yeah, he's just showing up because it's Guy Fieri, and
he's probably friends with Sandler.
Yeah,
that's the other thing is like Sandler. I feel like is just a normal person on a certain level, of where he probably does have friendships with some of these people, and is just like, hey, you want to be in Happy Gilmore too? I need somebody to do a random line, rather than going through like a casting agency to get like a new random person for one sentence.
Yeah. Well, that's where I think going back to what I was kind of saying, like when Sandler did the original movie, he was a known comedian, but he was getting little bit parts in other comedies, and he was kind of one of the up and coming SNL guys, and he wasn't probably making a lot of money to make these smaller studio comedies. Now, obviously, he's one of the biggest comedians in the history of comedy. And so he's able to use his influence also, and because people love him so much, that he can pull in all these random people that sometimes they work, but other times it's almost like, okay, now I'm just being taken out of the movie because it's Travis Kelce. Or now I'm just being taken out of the movie because it's somebody, like, again, like for me, the golfers, and I'm not a huge golf fan, I actually I think this movie kind of serves even more than the original as like a love letter to golf. Like it shows how Sandler actually appreciates these athletes and wants to shine a light on how things are changing in the world of golf and all that stuff. And the golfers do get prominent screen time in like a lot of the movie. So like those I liked, but there's others where I was just like, okay, I don't know. It's a little cringy to me, and I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, but I mean, Kelce for me was the worst one.
Yeah.
He straight up was the worst cameo. I don't really think he brought anything to his character, versus like Bad Bunny for me really shocked me.
But I think that's different too also, because Bad Bunny is like a real supporting character in this movie, and I do think he works.
Yeah.
But then there's other things like Margaret Qualley in the beginning and Eric Andre.
And you didn't like them?
I hated them.
What?
And I love all of them as individuals and as actors. And that was the scene early on in the film where I was just like, all right, I'm getting nervous, because I just didn't buy it at all. And I just thought it was written poorly. I thought it was.
Do you think it was the written poorly, or that you didn't like that it was them three?
I think it could have been a mixture of both. I think the scene was written poorly, but then it's also me being like, oh, well, like, no, Margaret Qualley is talented. Like, she's incredibly talented. I know Eric Andre is a great comedian, but it just completely took me out, because I was like, all right, I don't know if this is working for me. And you felt differently.
I felt totally differently. I just felt like, hell yeah, like he's getting some like SNL people. We love Margaret Qualley. Like, I just kind of felt like, okay, yeah, we're going to be having a film that's made with just a bunch of people that we know already. And we're going to watch them pretty much just have a good time all together. Margaret Qualley didn't surprise me, though, because she does kind of do these like weird, quirky roles already in other films. And so, like, yeah, I totally buy her being like this really bad kind of mid golfer who also then just like drops down into a split in the sand because she's killing it.
Yeah.
Like, I got it. And I was on the roll of like, okay, things are going to be a little heightened, a little over the top, just kind of like I feel like the original Happy Gilmore is.
Yeah, and I think it might have just been the way that this film was written, and in terms of maybe it got
too serious.
No, I don't even think it was serious.
In the beginning.
I think it's more that it's the modern comedy writing that I just find more cringe than I used to find Happy Gilmore comedy. Like, the things that made me feel better about it is the member berries, but that doesn't always necessarily equate to me to just making it a good film in the end, you know? Like, there are aspects of it that I like even Ben Stiller's role as Hal, who I like in the original movie. It's a character that like my brother would quote for like decades. And there are moments with Hal that I think really work, but then I think they milk it a little bit too much. And I think that even like the drinking thing, the first like 3 times it happens, where Happy's just like, everything is a flask, I loved. And by the time we get to the 4th and the 5th and the 6th and the 10th and the 12th, I'm like, all right, like I get it, you know? Like, and I think that it almost does this thing where, I don't know if you have you watched Key and Peele?
A few times.
Okay. Key and Peele is a fantastic sketch show, but they get to this point where they kind of extend a joke by kind of adding on and adding on and adding on until it gets to the very border of when it's like, okay, this is getting annoying. And then they manage to pull out at the right time. And they're like, okay, and they leave you being like, wow, that was great. If they went a little bit longer, this could have been a really annoying sketch. It would have just been the same thing over and over and milking something. And this movie, I felt like there were like 5 or 6 different jokes and times where they kept milking and milking and milking. Like even, I thought Benny Safdie was great as Frank Manatee. He's a actor that played it straight, but it had comedic sensibility. His character was a caricature of like all these different other people that exist in modern culture. And that was the kind of thing where I was like, this is working for me. But the jokes about his breath, like, okay, I get it. It happened like 7 times. And I'm just like, all right, we get like, let's, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not that I wasn't trying to have fun with the movie. It was just, I think that some of the comedy for me didn't work. And when it's like certain punchlines and gags that they keep relying on and they keep going back to and I'm not finding funny, of course I'm not going to like the movie as much as the original.
No, I get that.
Which is just, I mean, comedy is one of the most subjective things, you know? So if you're not going to find something funny, it's going to be harder to kind of latch on to the new bits that are kind of forming.
It's funny though, because I'm trying to like think back on like early Sandler films, and I feel like he kind of does that though with his side characters a lot, is like he picks one thing and just kind of like picks on them or like points out the same thing over and over again with his specifically like side gimmicky characters a little bit.
Yeah, I think maybe part of it was that in those earlier films, it's almost that those characters are so sidebar that they don't play any impact on the overall plot, where so much of it is the driving thing in this movie is that we're constantly relying on the same gags. Like even again, like Happy with the Flask thing, like that's something that, I mean, that's a good amount of screen time of him just drinking.
I didn't hate it.
No, I don't hate it. I just think that it got to a point where I'm like, okay, I get the joke now, but like, give me another joke or let's do something different.
Yeah.
And I think it just kind of went back to doing the same thing where I think that so much of it was, and again, Sandler's an older guy now. I don't know how much he had in terms of this story versus like the original movie and in terms of like the earlier comedies where he was so much more a part of the writing process and he was a young and budding comedian and he didn't have his hands in other things of being a dad and doing dramatic roles, all these things. So I think that could play a part in it. But I don't know. I was a bit let down with some of the humor. There was some things where I was like, okay, I wish that this was punched up a little bit more. I wish I felt I was laughing the same way that I would laugh at like an earlier Sandler comedy, which again, that's just the state of, I think a lot of his, like, I think a lot of people go in like with these expectations, to now what Sandler is. And I think that it's clear that he still has comic sensibility because some things work, but other things didn't work for me.
Do you think what bothered you more, like the heavy cameo aspects and like those crutches, or how much was like flashbacks or like memorabilia of the first one? Like, did that stuff bother you or not really?
I don't think it did because I felt that everything was kind of weaved in the right way with the exception of maybe the Eminem scene. Like that was the only one that I was like, okay, I don't know if we needed this, but everything else, like, I like that we get these little nods to Chubbs, which I do want to talk to you about more too, because that's a big thing looming over me with this movie.
Okay.
Is because the film was, not to avoid your question, I can go back to it, but Carl Weathers, who plays Chubbs in the original film, was still alive when this film was greenlit. And it was years that they talked about making this movie. And I think it was just that a lot of studios didn't want to give the money for Sandler to do this. And obviously Sandler had the deal with Netflix. And I think that he kind of found somebody with Tim Herlihy and maybe the director Kyle Newacek where he had cracked something that he wanted to do with it. And he has been saying in a lot of the press stuff for this film that Carl was such a major part of where they were going to go with Happy Gilmore 2. And then he died 2 months after the film got greenlit. And Sandler's like, we had to change a lot of the story. And so I'm so curious on what that movie looked like. Because there is, like, I don't know if that has an effect on then what happens in this movie, because we get a shock death in the beginning of it. Or, like, we don't get a lot of, like, we get good nods to Chubbs, but Chubbs is such a major part of that first movie.
Doesn't he die in the first one?
He does, but it's later on in the film. And that's because they showed the same It's the same exact thing at the end of this movie where he's looking up in the clouds, and it's the exact same shot where he's waving with like the alligator and Abraham Lincoln.
I wonder, like, how is he such a prominent figure in like their second film if like his character had already died
I wonder if so much of like, so we get these little bits of these heavenly sequences, happy moments, as they call them in the movie, because Happy's wife dies within 5 minutes of the opening. He kills her with an errant driving ball. And she pops up a few times. There's other moments where, again, like the Travis Kelce thing kind of gets overblown with Bad Bunny's kind of happy thoughts. And they return to this thing a few times within the movie. And I wonder if so much of that was Chubb's kind of channeling through. And I wonder if more of the family, because the family is such a big part of this movie still at the same time. Like it's another driver for Happy to go and make money to send his daughter to Paris to go to dance school and things like that. But I wonder if so much of the dynamic was different if Virginia was still alive. Like, I don't know. I don't have the answers to these questions. I don't know. But Carl Weathers was also like different than like the Steve Buscemi's and the John Lovitz's, where they get these small little bit parts in a lot of Sandler movies and they're funny and iconic in their own right. But Carl Weathers was like a supporting player in that original movie alongside Christopher McDonald and Julie Bowen.
Yes.
And so I'm so curious on like what that would have looked like. You know, like you didn't feel like that his presence was missed in this movie, or there was
I guess I could say yes, I felt like it was missed. But like I don't know how they would have brought his storyline back in, because his character has been dead for so long. Yeah. Like it's not like all of a sudden it's not like the death of his wife Virginia. Like the way that affects him is because one, he killed her and it literally just happened, and that's why he never wants to golf again, is because he just killed his wife through golf. I just feel like if we're starting at the same time point, why is a death that's affected, like from 15 years ago, affecting him now and being so impactful in his life? But I mean, maybe they had a storyline that brought it back in, and I just don't know about.
Well, that's where I
like,
think
I don't know.
Like I don't know why I'm speculating it in this way, but I feel like there would have been a different driver to get him back to golfing, and I don't think it would have had to do with the death. Okay. Like, and that's where I'm like, okay, because it does kind of follow partially a little bit of that beat in the first Happy Gilmore, which the director Kyle Newacek has talked about, where he's like, yeah, well, in the first movie, Happy's dad dies, and that's what gets him to move in with his grandmother. And he's kind of just a lowlife that needs to figure his life out.
Yeah.
And him killing his wife and then having to raise a family of 5 by himself and
being an alcoholic.
Like,
yeah.
Not that it follows the same trend as the first movie, but it somewhat correlates more directly, where I think there might have been a bigger, broader idea for how they wanted to do things in terms of the driving story of Happy rather than like the story of golf. Because at the end of the movie, it really becomes, it's kind of a movie of two halves, where it's like the first half is trying to figure out the family stuff and him trying to do what's right by his family, and then the second half of the movie is trying to save golf. And it's so much so that he winds up teaming with Shooter, which was another interesting thing, but I'm kind of happy they did it.
Yeah.
But what do you think about the structure of the movie and how it kind of played out? Because again, it is it's a fun movie. I understand that, but
well, okay, so I didn't watch the trailer, so I really had no idea what the storyline was going to be, or
it doesn't give any of that away.
It doesn't give anything away. Nothing. Like not her death, not that there's going to be a big competition.
No, and the reason I think I was so nervous in the trailer was because
it gave nothing away.
No, I think it was because all it did was try to show comedic bits that I didn't laugh at, and now I'm coming out of this movie not thinking there were some moments of hilarity for me, but not enough for me to justify, okay, we should have made this movie, is how I feel.
Because they wanted to keep it a secret of like what the actual plot was going to be, which makes sense. And honestly, I didn't hate the plot. I think it's a very basic one that then allows the space for them to put like this crazy obscene stuff into it, essentially. And it kind of is, it's a basic script of like, okay, we want our character to get to this point, which is competing in like a high level golf tournament. But how does he get here? And the question probably is like, what is the worst thing that could happen to Happy? in this movie. Let's start him there. What is the worst thing that could happen to that guy? Killing his wife by playing golf is probably the worst thing that could happen. And they were like, hell yeah, put that in the opening and let's go from there. So like, I don't think it's a groundbreaking storyline, but I definitely think that it just lays the groundwork for them to then play and kind of do what Sandler does, which is do crazy, obscene gestures and like scenes and snippets.
Yeah.
I would say I really enjoyed the first half. I thought it was funny. I thought it was tight. I would say that the second half definitely starts to get a little very gimmicky when it starts to get into the actual course, like the playing of the golf tournament. But I think that's just because then we're watching this like high tech new golf tournament where it's like they're playing in snow, they're playing while driving carts. Like I kind of felt like I was at a horrible Dave and Buster's at a certain point and was just like, oh my God, I want to get out of here. But I think that's how you're supposed to feel, is you're supposed to feel like these people fucking suck. Like we don't want that to happen for them. We want Happy to win so we can just go back to like boring golf and watch Happy be the crazy one and not these other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think we both just interpreted this movie very differently too, because I actually like the back half way more than the front half.
Interesting.
I like the gimmicky stuff, and I think that's what Sandler does best. And I think that so much of what I was missing in this movie was some of those establishing characters from the earlier 90s films that give us a sense of who they are rather than things like you had asked me before about the callbacks versus the cameos.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like part of the reason you return to these sequels are for callbacks.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that you can craft a good movie around callbacks. I don't know if you can craft a good movie over a cameo fest. And I think that that's where some of these things kind of fall into a weird section for me early on. Because and again, the cameos are more recognizable faces than they would have been in the 90s.
Yeah. He's
obviously a way more famous and popular person now. And I think that it just gets to a point where, again, as a viewer getting older and seeing these movies too, I'm just like, all right, I get it. And I think that those are the kinds of things I'd rather speed through to get to the ridiculousness of what I find in Adam Sandler's comedy, and where I think that in his more recent efforts that I've seen, comedic efforts, I should say, it's where I don't feel as much of the heart of the characters that drives the story as I used to. Like, I think of something like Big Daddy. And Big Daddy is another one of my favorite Sandler comedies. And I think that in the dramatic moments in the comedies, they're handled a lot differently in those movies compared to like what he's doing now. And I think him as a filmmaker and as a writer is very different now. So I think that it's just like I don't love his new style of comedy or his Netflix comedies.
You just don't love it, because I disagree. I feel like him, when he's playing on Mother's Day in this movie and he's locks himself in the bathroom and is like crying and then starts drinking again, I'm like, wow, that's like that's dark, that's sad. That's like the typical trope of a Sandler movie where all of a sudden there is a very heavy, sensitive like material that comes in. I mean, he's also dealing like under all of this kind of craziness, he's also talking about sobriety and the struggle that comes with sobriety. So I think we felt like we walked in differently.
This is the first time I feel like we've ever sat down and just had completely different viewpoints of the movie, which I think is great. And it's good that I'm happy that you had a different sensibility with watching the film. What were some things that stood out that were good in terms of moments for you that you really enjoyed, and other moments that you wish either could have been cut out or you were like, all right, I could do without this?
So good. I'm going to talk about Shooter McGavin.
Okay.
I really loved how they brought his character back in. I think it was super, it just made sense to where his character last left off. I think it's absolutely already puts him in a crazy level, having him come out of an insane asylum, essentially. And then the way he gets out too, by being brought out by Benny Safdie's character. I just think that the way that they interwove Shooter throughout all of that was really smart. And then even to give him like his redemption arc of like, hell yeah, he makes that shot to like get them to be able to have a chance of winning. And although it was probably cheesy and people probably like rolled their eyes at it, I liked that him and Happy ended up making like amends with each other after beating each other up in a gravesite.
Yeah, and I like that also served a play into giving these little nods to all the characters that came in the original movie, not overdoing it in some ways. I agree. I think Christopher McDonald was maybe the most well-handled legacy character from the original movie. I love the way that they kind of brought Shooter back in. I did like as well that they kind of made amends, and that he winded up being, at the end of the day, like I had said earlier, like it really does play into that second half of the movie for me. Plays into like the love of the game of golf and how they're able to band together to save normal golf against this like insane tech billionaire that's like breaking people's limbs
in order to be a better golfer.
Completely angle themselves, which I thought that bit was great.
Yeah,
like, that was a bit where I was like, this is so ridiculous and so Sandler that it's working for me. Like when you're seeing Haley Joel Osment completely twist his body around and make eye contact with Adam Sandler before he takes a shot. I thought that was great, and I liked a lot of the way they handled all of that stuff. So I agree with you there.
Have you seen that people are like speculating that it was like a dig at this other golf thing in real life where it's like, I don't know if it's LIV or if it's Live.
Oh, yeah, like there. So
I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, so I think that the competitive nature of what they were doing, I think definitely played into it, because Live was a golf brand that was organization that was started to rival the PGA, and a lot of PGA golfers came over from PGA because they were getting paid like tons of money to just play. Like Phil Mickelson, who's like one of the best golfers ever, Bryson DeChambeau, who's in this movie, like they all moved from the PGA to Live, and then I think it was the PGA that winded up buying Live to kind of merge them. And I do think that was part of what they kind of poke fun at,
like a little dig.
But this is like, again, like times a million. Like we're talking about there's no crazy gimmicks comparatively. I think it was scored a little bit differently or something like that. Again, not a major golf person, so I can't speak directly to that, but I did like that. So for you then, going back to the golf cameos, because you said you didn't know, I don't know if you knew any of them or if there were some you knew.
I knew two.
Okay, who did you know and what did you think of them in general?
I'm going to mess up their names, but the guy that just won, who is Rory, I want to say.
Rory McIlroy?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Scotty
Scheffler.
Yes.
Okay. So wait, what did you think about one? So you didn't know that John Daly was a golfer?
No, I had no idea who that man was until Tyler was like, pause it, I'll explain who he is really quickly. No clue who that man was.
Because so he probably plays the most prominent golfer cameo within the film, and he's
funny.
He was great. Like his his is a little bit more than a cameo. He shows up multiple times, but his role I thought was great. His hand sanitizer gag I loved.
Okay, so that was one that like repeated like a few times.
But again,
did it bother you?
It happened 3 times compared to 15.
I guess, but I loved watching like, all right, how many items are gonna be here? Literally, and just like him holding something, and then all of a sudden just the slow like starting to turn it, and you're like, what the fuck?
How is this happening? How are you able to make everything a drinking
like his phone
apparatus?
His phone when he's crying in the bathroom and he just like pops something out, you're like, what? It's
ridiculous. Shout out to the prop department for all the ones that had to develop these things. But yeah, I thought the golf cameos worked well. I don't think it's necessarily a movie that you're not going to have fun with, or there's no laughs necessarily. I just love the first one so much.
You just understand it is better. The first one will always be better.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel. And one of the things I was thinking about going into this is the fact that this movie has done obviously so well within the first few days it's come out, and that whole thing of like where there's that response where people are like, yeah, but like, what were you expecting? It was going to be a Netflix sequel to a movie that came out 20 years before that, and like the way that I respond to that is like, just make them better. Like, and I don't know if what that would require for this, because I do think, again, there are people that are going to really like it and have a lot of fun with it. I didn't respond as well to it as I would have hoped that I did, but there were aspects that I liked. I thought that I liked Bad Bunny, honestly.
I thought he surprised me.
Because I think that he actually has he's the type of performer and entertainer that I've seen across multiple things now, whether it's SNL or even like being like wrestling in WWE, that like he takes something like seriously. If he's gonna go for it, he's gonna go for it. And I thought his role as Oscar and I mean when Marcelo comes in, the two of them are great.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's other things that to me, and again, it's so interesting because we think of this movie so differently. Like I really prefer the back half compared to where I think you enjoyed so much of the first half of the film.
Yeah, I liked the setup. I liked seeing him with like the like boys, like his sons. Like I thought that was really funny, watching how like the hockey influenced their lives. I also just, there's something sweet, and like I know everybody rips on nepotism. Like there's moments where I don't like it either. There's something really sweet about him casting his daughters and his wife in all of his films. I'm for it. I really enjoy it, and there's something that makes it just a little bit like, oh, it's a family movie. Yeah. We love it.
Well, that's happening more, I think, now as he gets older too. And, and I think that Sadie, what's Sadie and what's the other daughter's name?
Sunny.
And Sunny. They both want to be actresses, I think, and they want to be in the industry. And so, his daughter that plays his actual daughter in the film, I thought actually did a pretty good job.
I do too.
And yeah, I thought all the boys did a good job. There was the one kid from Shameless.
Yep,
who
Ethan
pops up, and I think he might have been in another Sandler movie before, and there's a wrestler in there that I thought did a pretty good job. So yeah, I mean, all in all, did you have any more thoughts?
No, I mean, I had a good time watching this. I would say one of the other cameos that was kind of just like really random for me was the Alex Earl one.
Oh yeah, well that's because he's going through this whole process of appearing on all the different podcasts.
Yeah, I just felt like, I don't know, Alex Earl for me was like really random compared to like the others.
Yeah, I wonder if his daughter is friends with her.
Maybe.
Or something.
Or was like, I'm a fan of hers. Like,
yeah, exactly. Dad, let's get Alex Earl in the movie. Yeah, no problem, sweetie. We'll give her a call. No worries. Yeah.
No, the one thing that I was surprised, do you think that they offered Tiger to come on at all? Or you think he just was like, I want nothing to do with this movie?
I think that they've probably met before. Mm-hmm. Tiger does get a bust of his head in the moment where they're walking through kind of, I think it's like the Golf Hall of Fame, or they're just there to pay respects to all the best golfers. And there's a bust of Happy there too. And I think that it was probably a conversation that was had. I'm sure that whoever represents Tiger might have had a conversation with Sandler. I don't know. But I think that
maybe he wanted a pretty penny.
I just don't get Tiger as that vibe. Like Tiger to me is so much of literally the Michael Jordan of the sport of golf, where like Jordan doesn't do that. Like Jordan, again, I mean, he was in Space Jam, but this is in the 90s. This is when it's a whole different thing. Like you're not getting Michael Jordan a cameo in movies anymore. He's like, I'm going to smoke cigars. I'm going to drink whiskey. I'm going to go watch basketball. And that's all I kind of want to do. I kind of don't want to be in the spotlight. I don't really want people being like, I saw you in the new movie. Like, I just kind of want to do my own thing. I think Tiger is the same way. His kids are like, his oldest son, I think, is like playing now at this point. And I think that that's so much of where his focus is. Do I think that there was a conversation? I'm sure there was.
There had to have been.
It would have been sacrilege for there not to be a conversation, I think. But yeah. Now, I mean, again, there are some laughs to be had. It's not a movie that like I would be like, to revisit. It's just, it was fine. It was very fine to me. I wanted it to be better. I was a little bit let down. But now I can just go back and rewatch the original and then feel good about, okay, well, I still love the original as much as I did.
There you go.
Which is fine.
I don't know how a rewatch would be of this, because a lot of this movie is being like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like that's literally what you're doing the whole time anytime somebody comes up. So I don't know how a rewatch would be, but I had a good time.
All right, you ready for scores?
Yeah, I want to hear yours first.
Okay, I'm going to give this movie a 5. So I am like literally the definition of mid. I think it's like there are some moments that are good. There are some moments that are not so good. Liz is shocked right now. I don't know if Sean
I'm shocked. I'm literally shocked.
I think it's very fine. Again, I think that the way that I look at comedy now compared to older comedies, it's just like if I'm not laughing throughout, I can't give you a positive score. And that's kind of how, and I think a 5 is very fair for this movie.
Wow.
I think there are things that work. I think there's a lot that doesn't work. And that's kind of where I sit with it. You feel very differently.
I'm shocked. Not even like a 6. Not even giving him a little bone.
A 5. I'm gonna give it.
I'm going with a 7.
Okay.
Because like I had a really good time. Is this something that's groundbreaking and is changing the world? No. Did the original Happy Gilmore? No. And so what? It changed the world?
I didn't change the world, but I just thought the comedy was so much better.
I know, but I still was very happy with this film. I think it sticks with where Sandler's going with his films. It was exactly where I expected. I had a fun time. I had a good time. And maybe I just was in a good mood when I watched this.
That's great. I'm happy
really
you enjoyed it.
So,
I'm very happy you enjoyed it, honestly, because, and again, I think there's, the one thing is I've talked to so many people that have already seen this movie, which I couldn't tell you the last time. But I've talked to so many people that are like, "Did you watch Happy Gilmore yet?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're covering it. We're like, don't worry, we're gonna get to it." So I think that's good. Part of me wishes that it wasn't a theater because I'd be so curious on how much money this would have made at the box office.
Yeah, well, we're gonna see it with another sequel that's coming out in like a week.
With what?
Freaky Friday.
Oh, Freakier Friday.
Freakier Friday.
With Disney, which is, again, it's similar and different. I mean, where that movie I think came out 8 years after Happy Gilmore. We were already in 2000s comedy, and one is female fronted compared to a more male skewing audience. But I think Freakier Friday is going to be a massive hit. Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be better than this one?
I think it's going to be kind of similar. I think it might be a little bit better, but I think I have different expectations.
Okay.
Because I think the comedy's even different. I mean, we're comparing rated R. I think Happy Gilmore is rated R. But maybe it wasn't. But we're talking about different kinds of humor in Freaky Friday compared to Happy Gilmore. It might have been PG-13. Are you looking it up?
I am.
Freaky Friday, I think, was
PG-13.
And Freaky Friday was PG. Had to have been. It was a Disney movie.
Where does it say the rating?
Dead air.
PG.
PG. Okay.
PG.
Yeah. So different kinds of comedy, definitely. You could you could literally say fuck in a PG-13 movie.
No, you can't.
You can say it once.
Once?
Yes, you can. You can say it once. You can't do that in a PG movie. There's a lot you can't do in PG. So I think it'll do well. Would have been curious to see what Happy Gilmore 2 did, but 46.7 million viewers.
Crazy. At
the time we're recording this on Tuesday evening. So it's a massive success for Netflix, obviously.
It is.
Massive success for Sandler. Wonder if Netflix goes back to the well and then says to him, let's do a sequel on one of your other movies. And then, like, because you had brought this up earlier in the review, and now we're just kind of elongating the conversation because we already gave our scores. But I don't know how many of his previous films would cater to a sequel compared to this. Like, I don't know if there really is that many that you could do. Like, you can't do a Waterboy 2, I don't think. You can't do a Billy Madison 2. I mean, you can, but, like, what do those look like? You know?
I just also don't know if he will go down that route. I feel like Sandler, like, he'll only do it. I don't know if he'd do it.
I think we're getting another Grown-Ups. I think that's what we're going to wind up getting.
Which I think is good. The second one was great. So, like, give us another Grown-Ups 3. Those are, like, funny, and there's enough people collaborating that you get different point of views. So
yeah, I think that's where we're going to end up with it. But let us know in the comments, what did you guys think about Happy Gilmore 2? Do you lean more on the side of me of thinking it's fine, it's mid, it's okay, it's not great? What were some of your favorite gags? Or do you lean more on the side of Liz, where you actually had a really, really great time with it? You went in with a different kind of set of expectations, and let us know your memories on a bunch of different other Adam Sandler films, as well as the original Happy Gilmore. We'd love to have a conversation with you guys in the comments. Please give this video a like if you guys can, and subscribe to us here at the Culture Wave Media Network. We have tons of other reviews on the channel for you guys right now. We have Fantastic Four First Steps is up. We have Superman. We have more DCU stuff. We have Eddington is up on the channel, as well as The Summer I Turned Pretty, which Ella and Megan are covering right now. So please check all that stuff out, plus interviews and other things. And you can follow us on social media if you don't already. All that stuff is below me in the video, and it's also in our YouTube description. Just signing off, I'm Darian Scalamoni.
I'm Liz Seiko.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.